everybody. Welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It is Francis and Nate. It is Thanksgiving when you're going to be listening to this. Only half of us really are in a place of Thanksgiving. I don't really celebrate Thanksgiving either. So Thanksgiving, it's up to you guys. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. I am getting back into the swing of things. So I was gone for, 11 days, 11 nights, I suppose. 12 days really, because I had to leave on Thursday and then come back the following Sunday. And I was supposed to get back in the afternoon, but my flight got canceled because of the surprise G7 meeting about Ukraine in Geneva, which caused them to close the airspace by surprise. And basically flights that had to cross that airspace had to be canceled. Like I was maybe two or 3 minutes away from dropping my bags off at Heathrow. I was the next in line. And the flight got canceled. So I wound up having to kind of annoy British Airways enough and figure out what to do. And I wound up getting booked on a flight back to Geneva that night, routed through Madrid. So I had to fly to Spain to then fly to Geneva, which was interesting. But it was fine. Madrid's a nice airport. I made my connection and I got home, but just later than I wanted to because of the sort of irradiate. It's like that nuclear rocket, the sort of self-propelled nuclear rocket idea that would like travel around the world irradiating people. It's like neutron star density of sex pests on the planes going to fucking the G7 summit, flying across the world and just like irradiating the airspace and causing planes to fall out of the sky. It like changes gravity, so the planes can't do heavier than air flight.
Yeah, if you wanted to know what happened in Lost, that's it. It was a airplane full of world leader pedophiles that crashed that airplane. So
I was in the UK for a recording session. My bandmate, my friend Safine and I had been working together for a while, and I kind of asked a friend, hey pal, would you be interested in producing our record? Because of podcasts past, I'm friends with Dan Beckner from Wolf Parade, and he said, absolutely, I'd love to. And so we went down and we recorded. Looks like it's going to be 9 songs because we kind of Hail Married a last one. But we went and rented I got us a Airbnb. It was a house in a little village in Sussex, and we went to a studio run by a friend of ours that is really, really good and kind of in the middle of nowhere, so there's no like distractions. And we worked Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Dan had to leave early Saturday morning, and Saf and I went back to London, and I flew out Sunday. Well, I was supposed to fly out Sunday morning, but then the pervert comet fucking grounded my flight, so I wound up coming back Sunday night.
Yeah, wait a minute. If perversion is what stopped flights, then no one from England would ever be able to get to Spain. To be fair, like that airspace always being open, that corridor always being there, kind of defeats the.
I feel like there's that concentration of like venality and perversion that you get on G7 and their staff flights for world leaders, and it's the density. It's not that flights full of perverts don't leave all the time. It's that when you concentrate them that much, it changes like the laws of gravity around it, and planes actually can't fly. Like it's just too dense. It'll cause like the planes will literally it'll be like a magnet throwing the metal of the plane into the ocean.
Yeah, it's like the iceberg where you can only see a little bit, and all the rest of it is underneath. Like there's a certain amount of perversion that's allowed on an airplane.
Yeah, an ambient level of perversion that's tolerable.
Right.
That kind of implies
we call that one British.
The meters only go up to 3.6 British. Not bad, not great, not terrible. I had a blast. It's so much work. It's so much fun. It's the most fun I've had in forever. 4 of the songs we recorded are mine, and I managed to put together a version of one of Saf's songs that got left off the recording, and he and Dan liked it enough that we're going to try to Hail Mary some kind of way of tracking those so we can then come back in February and mix the record, because that's the next step. You record an album, you have to mix it, and Dan made the point that it's better to have obviously the producer needs to be there and the band should be there, but also like doing it in the same facility is great because we've got everything to how we recorded it. If we have to change or add stuff, we can do it right there. The setup there is great. So yeah, we are going to mix this record and then put it out on Bandcamp. So all of that will be details to come. And we have basically, Dan likes it and has said he wants to shop it around to labels, but at this point we've kind of financed a record ourselves, and so the goal is just like, why don't we just put it out, do the whatever legal stuff we have to do to self-release it, and then like get it set up in such a way that it can be streamed and stuff like that, but that it's if that's doable, if there's some distribution thing, but obviously like everyone I know who's been in music has told me that at this point, when you get a label, you won't make any money from sales whatsoever. It's just a given. And so what the label can do is front you money and also like get you in with people, you know, like producers that wouldn't necessarily be interested in a band they'd never heard of, that kind of a thing. But we've done a lot of stuff already that like a label would do. And so we will at least own the masters of this record once it's done. It has to get mastered too, obviously, but that's the mixing is the next big project, and then finishing this 9th song. And yeah, man, it was amazing. There's so many times I listen back and I'm like, wait, was that, am I playing bass on that song? Like, am I playing, did I do a piano part in that song? I don't remember, because it was just in the same space working, 10 to 6 every day. We took a quick break for lunch every day. And so, yeah, it was incredible. But then like numerous times I'm like, did I write a bass part for that? Did I record? And then staff was like, yes, we've mentioned this numerous times. Yes, you did. There was an old organ in there. I played an organ part in one of his songs. It sounds insane. It was really cool. Yeah, I had a great time. But every day I either called my daughter on video call or filmed a video and texted it to Cynthia. But being gone that long with, a 2 and some months old, she was not happy. And since I've been back, only dad can do anything, which is fine. Yeah. It's great. I love spending time with her. It's been really nice, but it is very funny because she's been really tired lately. She's been just getting the last of like her baby teeth molars in, and it's been bothering her. And she'll be crying kind of incoherently, and she'll keep saying, "Mama, Mama." I'm like, Cynthia will be sitting next to her and she'll be like, "I'm right here. Do you want me to hold you?" And she'll be like, "No, Papa. No, Papa." She only wants me. And it's like, but she keeps calling for her mom, but she doesn't actually want her mom. It's apparently it's just a thing you say when you're a toddler.
Yeah. Well, mom's always the first one, and then you're like, wait, no, not you, the other one. I ended up leaving when my daughter was 2 years old. I left for Japan for 2 weeks, and very, very big shout out to my wife, who I was like, I don't know if I can do this, just because there's a 2-year-old at home. My wife, thankfully, was just like, this is not. I'll be fine. Just go. Like, my wife works from home, so it's just like it's fine.
Cynthia definitely doesn't work from home, so it was okay. But it was,
I imagine
it was a challenge.
But you have daycare though.
We
too.
do, we do.
Cynthia can be like, I am going to take a break from the child and put them over here with these people that we pay money to.
Right, but also like you have to get in the office, which means you have to get up really early every morning, get the kid up who doesn't want to get up and get dressed because she's always a bit like stall tactics about leaving. Go to daycare, then go to work, then leave work with enough time to get to daycare in time to pick her up and bring her home. Handle dinner, handle diaper changes, handle bedtime, handle bath time, all that stuff, all these things. It's a ton when you're kind of tag teaming as a parent, when it's one parent. I mean, I've done it when Cynthia, she has to go to this conference every year in January. And so I solo parent our daughter while she's gone, and I'm going to have to be gone for a week in February for the mixing. And Cynthia's got a trip coming up to elsewhere, in May. So like we're getting used to it. We figured something out, and having the stable childcare is amazing. But I was like, at a bare minimum, I'm going to do pick up and drop off for at least this week, and bedtime every night until I've repaid the debt of the 11 nights Cynthia had to handle bedtime solo, because it can be really easy, and it can also be a fucking lot depending on how she's feeling.
Well, my adventure between the last time we talked is I got my first colonoscopy done.
Congrats.
Through the VA. Went to the VA and let the government stick cameras inside, up and down me. Highly recommend. We are a podcast of 2 men who are middle-aged and getting up there in years. If you are approaching that age, and like I got it done because I was getting an endoscopy because I have acid reflux, and they said, well, while we're here, we might as well go up the backside too. And knock that out. Get some biopsies, get some whatever things removed, things added. I don't know. I don't ask too many questions. So it was annoying and it was a bitch, but also you should get it done. If you are of that age, you need to be. I think with guys, Nate, it's not really ingrained in us to do preventative medicine. Like with women have like mammograms, and women have like you go to your regular doctor and then you go to the doctor that is specific for your genitals, and men don't have that. And so I don't know. I feel as part of our PSA as 2 adults, 2 dads. Go get your preventative medicine done. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be annoying, but you got to get it done, man. Like too many people our age are suddenly discovering they have cancer.
Yeah, I haven't had a colonoscopy, but I do remember having to get a prostate exam for my DodMERT physical when I was 18, when I was applying for my ROTC scholarship.
They did not do that to me. I guess to be an officer, it's a little different.
Well, it was funny because the guy at the physical, the sort of contracted medical facility that did the DodMERT physicals, he didn't do it. He just left it blank, and then they kicked it back, and they're like, "You need to get this done and submit it as a as a response. Basically, we need this in your packet. So I went to my family doctor and she's like, why on earth am I doing a prostate exam on an 18-year-old boy? She's like, whatever, let's just do this and I'll make this as minimally unpleasant as I can. And so, before I even got in the army or even signed anything binding, I had to have the doctor check the inside of my rectum with her finger. She wore gloves, obviously. But I remember that they had this like a sort of medical lubricant and it was really cold. And I was just like, well, I don't like this. But yeah, that was the last time I think I've had that checked. Oh, this is really funny and really embarrassing, but really funny. When I was starting 6th grade, you had to get physicals to do like school sports. And I happened to get unlucky that there was a trainee pediatrician that was like shadowing the normal pediatrician at the place we went. And so they're like, oh, well, the exam form actually has all this stuff. So like, we're just going to do a complete one. And the complete one included butthole check, among other things. And it was just like, it wasn't weird. It was like, you know, I was there like, I was like,
it was unnecessary.
It was like, if you want your mom to leave, it's fine. If you want to use just us. And I was like, it's fine. She can stay in. It's fine. I don't mind. I'm not like embarrassed, whatever. They did everything. But I remember it was like every subsequent physical I got was just like your usual, go to your family doctor and he's like, you know, grab your testicles, turn your head and cough. Okay, done. That's it. Whereas I remember that one, I was like, wow, they do that to every kid who plays. It's like, no, you were the fucking training. You were the training aid for that day. You were the 11-year-old training aid. And it was like, yeah,
you were the CPR dummy.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, right. Okay. Well, I mean, it's very funny. I mean, in retrospect, I was just like, I mean, it's what the form says. I mean, I think I was kind of just sort of sanguine about it, I guess. But that, I haven't, other than that, now I think about it, no, it's never come up. And it's like, no one ever, like, people aren't like doctors, you know, your GP or your family care provider or whatever. They aren't typically like, hey, yo, can we tack on an ass exam? You know what I mean? Like, it typically is a thing that like, it comes up because of your age or whatever. And they, you know, they make whatever, like it's like mandatory.
You have to be 45. 45 years old is when they want you to do it. I went in because as a good retired soldier, I'm trying to squeeze as many percentage points out of the disability that I can. So I've had acid reflux ever since I went to Afghanistan.
Really?
Yeah. Now it may, based on the endoscopy, because I thought like I got dysentery a bunch over there. I figured that would cause some problem, but like there's some kind of herniated thing that it could be. So like there's different things, and also just like look, sometimes when I eat certain things, I have diarrhea, right?
What is acid reflux actually like? Because I guess I've never identifiably had heartburn or reflux. I don't actually know what it's like. Maybe I have and I don't know, but maybe if you could describe the symptoms. Yeah.
So if I don't take my pill every morning, the right up and down here, and I'm indicating my sternum
like from like your clavicle down,
the lower esophagus.
Okay.
Like the bottom half of my esophagus. What happens is that stomach acid starts to go up the esophagus. And so that stomach acid that helps you digest and break down your food, which is perfectly fine to be in your stomach because your stomach has a lining, starts coming up through your esophagus, which does not have that. So what you end up getting, and they call it heartburn because it's in the general area, but you can tell it's in your esophagus, it's in your throat. And it feels like acid, like it feels like acid inside of there. And acid reflux has a lot of different symptoms to it, because my wife gets it too, but she gets a little phlegmy. She doesn't have the heartburn feeling itself. And depending, if I'm drinking milk or if I'm, it can be, I don't drink milk, but, depending on what you eat can make it better or worse. But it does literally feel like somebody is pumping acid up your esophagus. So it's even the wrong direction. Like if you were swallowing, that there's a certain way that food goes. But imagine like your body is throwing up, everything's coming up and back out of your esophagus, but it's not food, it's just this bubbly acid, and it just kind of sits
because I remember being really sick sometimes and throwing up so much there was nothing left to throw up, and that kind of like weird burning sensation that you'd get.
Yes.
So I could see it. Yeah, I what you're describing I've actually never had just from food. I mean, unless it, like I said, being like repeatedly ill to the point where my stomach was empty. I have had stuff in the past where I felt like this weird discomfort, like it's not food poisoning, it's kind of like weird tightness, and like I remember going to this kind of mediocre craft beer pizza restaurant in Bloomington with a friend. And the best way I could describe it was just sort of like not diarrhea, not stomach upset in the normal way, but just like this gross feeling of like the food almost being stuck and like constantly burping and just feeling gross. And this weird tightness in my chest. And I was, in retrospect, I was like, oh, maybe I had heartburn, but what you're describing sounds completely different. That was probably just ate fucking bad pizza in Indiana. And I guess it just, something about it didn't sit right. That's the actual medical term, is it didn't sit right with you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's cool. I mean, that's cool that you can describe it so you at least know how to treat it. I mean, it sucks you've got it,
yeah.
but...
And the omeprazole, like right now, the federal government just sends me a 90-day thing of omeprazole. It is perfectly fine to take every day. It's cheap. Like they send it, the government sends it to me for free, but I was always able to pick it up at Costco. I was able to pick up like a month's supply for under $10. So, it sucks, but thank goodness for modern medicine where you can just take a pill and be fine. Because like eventually that just eats a hole in your esophagus and you die. So, one of the many things that like if I was a medieval peasant, I would have been dead long ago from something terrible.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be honest with you, there's an extent to which I think about this sometimes when people talk about like weird nostalgia for the good old days. And it's like, chances are really good that if I were born in any other time than when I was and where I was born, I would have died because I was, I want to say 5 weeks premature, but my lungs hadn't fully developed yet. So they had to put me in an incubator, and without an incubator, who knows? It's not a guarantee I would have died, but it's also possible I just wouldn't have thrived and I would have died. You know what I mean? So I was lucky. I was born at Madigan Army Hospital in the mid 80s, and they had a neonatal incubator, so I was okay. And it's like, like you said, medieval peasant stuff. Like I think about the things that my daughters had, and some of it does clear up on its own, but some of it's stuff where I'm really glad we were able to get her treated. And you realize like, oh yeah, in the olden days, you had to hope that heating up olive oil and dumping it on your baby was going to work the way that the Italians still do.
Yeah, the Italian grandmother's cure. Yeah, I think I probably would have survived childbirth. I know my daughter wouldn't have.
Well, obviously you would have fucking survived childbirth. Oh, you mean when you were born?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, and this is like not even medieval, like just America at the turn of the 1800s, is medieval fucking enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, quite frankly, like, you were still in the early days of vaccines for stuff like smallpox. They didn't have a polio vaccine yet. The mortality rate was astronomical relative to today.
Babies died all the time.
Well, I mean, you hear about this all the time. You see these old graveyards, and it's like entire families with like 7 kids, and they all die within like 2 weeks of each other. It's horrible. And it's like, thank God we're at the point now where, you can prevent this, because I mean, little kids just, you hear these stories all the time, from the olden days, like, kid fine in the morning, and then whether they poke themselves on a rusty pin or they just come down with something, and then like they're basically dying by the end of the day. Like it's horrible.
Right. No, nobody's figured out you shouldn't be pooping next to where you drink.
And also, like, we have ways of detecting stuff now, like, through this process of elimination. I mean, it doesn't always work, and it's not always easy, but there's at least the ability to kind of assess stuff clinically versus like, oh, well, you should just, I don't know, eat chicken soup because it warms your blood up or something like that when you've got, spinal meningitis.
Tuberculosis, the cure used to be rich foods and shoving your bed outside so you could get fresh air. No matter what the temperature was, you're just on a balcony, in a bed, eating fried chicken and mashed potatoes constantly, which sounds kind of cool other than the tuberculosis part.
I mean, like being in a bed outside in winter because it's better air, eating fried chicken and just snow all around you sounds like you've got like smash cut into a scene from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like, that's horrifying. I mean, that is why they had all these like sanitarium, like here in this country, in Switzerland, this was a big thing for people with tuberculosis from throughout Europe, was that the idea was like, oh, the mountain air is good for you and such. And so people would stay in these, like sanitarium hotels, care facilities. And it's wild. I mean, I remember seeing photos years ago talking about this stuff. Hey, actually, hang on, I got to take this.
We're bringing a commercial break for you to tell you about the podcast Patreon, patreon.com/Hell of a Way to Die. 9 years of bonus content available to you at the $5 level. New bonus episodes every month. And coming this Christmas, we have Hallmark Christmas movies. The Hallmark Christmas movies will be numerous. They'll be fun. They'll be enjoyable. They'll make us laugh. They'll make us cry. We'll meet Doug. We'll meet Donna. It'll be a good time. We've already got a couple episodes down, so should be good. We're kind of changing it up a little bit because I've been watching a lot of Hallmark movies. And suddenly I just kind of want to keep the Hallmark Christmas cheer alive. So it's going to be exciting. Okay, once Nate comes back, though, we'll go back to our regularly scheduled talking about my colonoscopy. Get a colonoscopy. this is your advertisement for a colonoscopy. Get a camera, put up your butt, please. For the love of God. The prep kind of sucks, but I'll tell you what, chicken broth. I drank a lot of chicken broth, chicken stock really, and Dr. Peppers, and that seemed to be okay. They were all right with that. The worst part about it, waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and having to do a lot of, I'm not going to call it pooping, because at that point at 2 in the morning, you're kind of done with that, but, clearing yourself out. A lot of people will tell you it's the best nap that you'll ever get, which, I don't know. I got good sleep hygiene. I don't really need to get knocked out to take a nap, but I tell you, the best nap that I ever took was after the colonoscopy. We went and got some greasy diner food. I ate a skillet full of potatoes and meats and eggs and vegetables, and then went home, because again, you do have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to drink a bunch of stuff to make your body push everything back out again. So not a lot of sleep. So that nap afterwards took that. We hit that up. I got some coffee in me. I ate the whole heaping thing of food. I must have looked like a goddamn I don't know. I must look like a goddamn American, I guess, is what I must look like eating all that. But fuck it, I was hungry. And then my daughter has been a little under the weather too. So she came and she crawled into bed with me. I was reading a book. And I think the weirdest thing about it is that you have diarrhea, right? But you're not sick. But also you feel weak because you haven't eaten, but you're not sick. So it's this weird feeling of your body's just you're kind of fucked up because, you haven't eaten solid foods and you're pooping everything out. And, but at the same time, your entire, your brain is just I feel okay. You're just tired. So anyway, the best nap I ever took was the 2-hour nap I took after the colonoscopy and after eating, and then laying in bed and having a snooze. That was great. Took about a day to feel like my body was back to where it should be. It was a good time. What else do I got going on? Oh, I was just on Well, There's Your Problem bonus episode. So shout out to the So There's Your Problem folks. I was on to talk about the Arch. Love the Arch, the St. Louis Arch.
You realize that while you were talking this whole time that I had to turn you down because I could hear you through my headphones, and I was trying to talk to the doctor whose first language isn't French either. I just turned the volume. I've got a volume knob on my interface. I just turned it down, but I thought you were you were trying to speak French back at me or something.
Oh my God. Parlez-vous français? Nate, so Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas is coming up. We've got I know that you just traveled and your wife is going to be traveling. So what are your Geneva Christmas plans?
Well, try to decorate this year since our daughter's old enough to kind of appreciate it. There's Christmas market they do down by the lake. Cynthia went over the weekend while I was gone, and try to go back there again and try to see some friends around here that I haven't had a chance to see lately just because of being busy. Cook some nice meals, get out in the daytime when it's light out. I mean, Thanksgiving doesn't exist over here. It's Thursday's just a regular ass Thursday. We don't have any time off, so there's no point in if you're gonna do Thanksgiving, you either do a really late weeknight, which is annoying, or you do it on the weekend. But what I'm hoping to do is this weekend. I need to check my calendar, but I'm gonna try to make one thing that I've made for Cynthia in the past that she really likes is sort of Portuguese American style Thanksgiving stuffing. And you basically,
what is that?
Well,
wait a minute.
It's
yeah,
comparable to your standard stuffing, except you use linguiça and chorizo sausages, which are specifically Portuguese sausages. And if I remember correctly, when you're making a turkey, you take the neck and the giblets and you simmer them with vegetables like celery and onion, and you get this kind of really rich, oily stock. And what you do is you cook. Gosh, I believe it was olive oil, but you can also use oil and butter, and you cook the sausage separately, and then you basically create this kind of vegetable mix too with more celery and onions and garlic and salt and pepper, and I think you put sage in there, and then you basically have all of this cubed linguiça. And what you do is you get bread, lots and lots of bread. Portuguese bread is kind of like, have you ever had Milanese bread? It's kind of like okay, so it's kind of more like oval than like kind of like a baguette, French bread, but a little fluffier in the middle, a little more oval. It's kind of like that. And then so the idea is that you basically take cubed bread crumbs and you you create this mixture of all these vegetables and the oils and fats that are described and the sausage, and then you mix it up till it's like a evenly mixed mush, and then you bake it in the oven. And so you get this crust up top with the, the bread's absorbed all these juices and stuff, the chicken stock, etc. Remember, decent amount of, put a little bit of butter in there. You can, I don't know if Portuguese people use kale a lot, but I don't think they use kale in this recipe, or at least the one I have. And yeah, you just, you bake it. And so you get, your standard stuffing thing of like, bread. It's not bread crumbs. It's like cubed bread with vegetables and like the kind of like meat stock oiled stuff. And so it's really rich and really savory. And I would typically, when I would make it, I'd also just buy some extra linguiça and chorizo. So we'd have those like sausage links. Cynthia told me growing up that it was really common in Rhode Island because there's so many Portuguese people or people of Portuguese background in Rhode Island and also in southern Massachusetts, that she didn't realize it was abnormal that other states in America didn't have the option of getting like pizza where you could get chorizo or linguiça on your pizza all the time, because like it's just...
Yeah, I've never heard of chorizo sausage. I can get chorizo around here, but...
So Spanish chorizo with a Z is actually typically a sausage link. It's not loose sausage. Mexican chorizo, if I remember correctly, is loose sausage.
Yes.
I think they're similar, but the Spanish one is like a peppery, spicy, not mega hot, but spicy sausage link.
It's got a little kick to it.
Yeah, and chorizo, which it's spelled with a C with a tail like in French, in Portuguese. It's their version. It's just slightly different flavor. Linguiça, similar thing. Linguiça is not it's not peppery. It's not spicy. You kind of want both. It's more like, Portuguese people don't get mad at me for this, it's kind of equivalent to like a chipolata or like a bratwurst kind of sausage. I think it's a pork sausage. It's not, it's savory as hell, but it's not like spicy typically. You can get spicy linguiça too, I think. And so they're everywhere. Yeah. I mean, you can buy salt cod in grocery stores in Rhode Island. Also like far southern Massachusetts, it's very, very Portuguese. Cape Cod's very Portuguese. My mom said when she worked at a butcher shop in Cape Cod when she was a teenager, all of the like adult butchers there were all Portuguese guys who all spoke Portuguese like that was their first language, or they spoke it at home. Obviously, the Portuguese-speaking world is pretty diverse and extends far beyond Portugal. So now you've got Brazilians and Cape Verdeans, Angolans, Mozambicans, people from Sao Tome and Principe, places all over the Portuguese-speaking world live there. And also here, there's tons of Portuguese speakers here. So there's Portuguese grocery stores. So I should be able to get what I need to make this. I probably forgot about Brazilians, literally the biggest Portuguese speaking country on the planet.
You brought up Brazil.
I did bring up, okay, yeah, Brazilian people, the Portuguese speaking world, and forgetting the country that has like 200 million people and they all speak Portuguese.
Yeah, the people who are actively keeping the Portuguese language alive,
well, it's funny too. That would be like, oh yeah, the English speaking world just forgetting America. Although it's kind of actually also forgetting India, because it's like people in India typically speak other languages on top of English, but they do speak English, and it's like a billion people there. So it's like this is a trivia question that maybe you know about this stuff, maybe you don't, but the listener might also enjoy this. If you had to guess off the top of your head, what do you think the most populous city in the French-speaking world is? Like what city has the most French speakers? Like it's the biggest city where they speak French.
Well, I'm gonna pick the easy answer that I'm sure is wrong and say Paris.
Nope. It's Kinshasa, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. Kinshasa is a city of like well over 20 million people. It is gigantic. Oh, wow. Most people in the eastern or the western part of the DRC don't speak French as a native language, but like it's kind of one of the official languages. And so absolutely, the DRC is considered a Francophone country. It's part of the Francophone world. And yeah, Kinshasa is like unfathomably large. And yeah, similarly to in the English-speaking world, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that if you had to pick what's the biggest city in the English-speaking world, it's probably Lagos, Nigeria. It might be New Delhi or Mumbai. I'm not sure, because Mumbai is massive also, but Lagos is like 25 million people. It's insanely large. People always forget. Yeah. And so similarly, Portuguese language. Where do the most Portuguese speaking people live? Brazil. The land of Jair Bolsonaro's Bolsonaro's fucking infinity hospitalizations. The struggle.
He's in prison now. They put him in jail.
They put him in jail. Hopefully he has an infirmary in the prison.
Or hopefully it doesn't.
So yeah, my Thanksgiving plan is making Portuguese food for my wife, because my long-suffering wife, who's put up with me being gone and all of the sort of random happenstance things that we've had to deal with this year, and the white boy version of when your man decides he wants to become a rapper, all this stuff happening in our lives. But she's been great, and I'm going to surprise her. I'm going to say it on the podcast, but I'm not going to tell her. I'm going to surprise her with some real Portuguese meals. Maybe you can make bacalhau as well, which is the salt cod with like potatoes and olives and stuff. It's really good.
Well, this December, as I've talked about, we're doing. My wife and I are going to be doing some episodes about Hallmark movies, and it turns out Hallmark, like for those of you who are not in the know, Hallmark is not just a company that makes greeting cards. They have a whole empire, a whole movie. They have their own streaming channels and everything. And they're based out of Kansas City, which is 3.5 hour drive from us. So in December, like they have a Hallmark Weekends thing, and at the Hallmark Crown Center in Kansas City. So we're going to go out. We're just going to spend the night out there, and then come back the next day and do some Hallmark Christmas. I'm going to make a t-shirt for myself, because all the leading men in Hallmark movies are referred to as hunks, like Hallmark hunks. So I'm going to make a shirt that says Hallmark hunk in training. It's a whole weird like genre of movie that I find absolutely fascinating, because like every movie is essentially the same. Like they all have happy endings. Like there's no all the conflicts at the end of 120 minutes are nicely wrapped up. Everybody's happy. The boy and the girl get together. The father and son reconcile. The mother and daughter, find that their relationship is stronger than ever. But it depends on how we get there. And I've been watching a lot of military themed Christmas Hallmark movies, which are, whoo boy, Nate. Some of them are a bit wild. So we've got a lot of Hallmark going on here, and not necessarily in the just like, oh, I just want to feel Christmassy, in that kind of like, how when you pointed out that I'm a Disney guy, like I'm a Disney adult. And I have to clarify that, like, yes, I'm a Disney adult, but for logistics and for, how do you move one thing to another? How do you build an entire theme park on top of tunnels, on top of a swamp? That's the kind of thing that I'm into. The Hallmark movies are kind of the same thing, where it's a completely new genre of movie, a completely different way of doing things that I am absolutely fascinated by, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into. They even have a reality show called Finding Mr. Christmas that I'm very excited to get into, because it's a elimination thing on getting rid of leading men before they can be in a Hallmark movie. Exciting stuff, Nate.
Well, I mean, look, I'm aware of them because there was the Lifetime TV channel.
Yes.
And like Lifetime movies were a similar thing, where they were always very formulaic, but they were typically like movies about social issues like teen pregnancy and drug use.
Hallmark doesn't do that,
and so on and so forth. Whereas Hallmark is just sort of it feels like it's kind of like the real live action version of Precious Moments figurines.
Maybe, but Precious Moments figurines are very weird and prepubescent and kind of gross.
Yeah, they're kind of what they call like super deformed almost. Like there's a style of really cartoony anime and toys and stuff where they be super deformed, where everyone has basically like toddler proportions, like big heads and little matchstick bodies and stuff. And I remember Precious Moments figurines being like that.
Yes, I have been to the Precious Moments Chapel, because that is in Missouri, down southwest, and it is like it's real fucked up. It's a real fucked up place to go. Because for the same rate, like at one point, everybody refers to the guy as the artist. I think he's passed. Either he's passed, or they just kind of tuck him away in a place and just like, don't come out, because everybody understands this is kind of weird, but we're going to keep selling these things to all the grandmas. But he had a son that died. And then you see, okay, so he created this like little chapel, to honor his son who died. And it's like, here's the drawings of his son that he did. And you're like, okay, that's very, it's sad. I'm sorry that he lost his son. And then you find out his son died when he was like in his mid-20s. But like every drawing of him is, of course, this prepubescent, because that's all the artist knows how to do. And you start going like, all right, this is kind of gross now, man.
I mean, I remember this being a thing. There are numerous instances of these sorts of things where parents kind of use their own children in fiction, particularly in stories aimed at children and children's literature, and that doesn't really wind up making their kids' lives easier. I mean, perhaps it does in a material sense of like if they're successful and they make money, but like it makes these kids' childhoods and certainly adolescence is quite difficult because they're known as like the son of X cartoonist, the inspiration behind X cartoon kind of thing, X book, X whatever. Off the top of my head, the two that come to mind are Christopher Robin Milne, the son of A.A. Milne, the creator of Winnie the Pooh, and Dennis Ketchum, the son of Hal Ketchum, the inspiration for Dennis the Menace, or American Dennis the Menace, and not
we talked about
British Dennis the Menace.
Actually, my daughter is really into Nasher. For she got into I was like, all right, you're into British Dennis the Menace.
Does she know about Nipper as well? Nasher's little brother, I think. There's I picked
up her Kindle one time.
So Gnipper. yeah. Wow, that's cool. You got her into the Beano.
Oh, I didn't get her into anything. She just finds these things on her own. Like she has a Kindle and she will anything that's remotely Calvin and Hobbes-ish, she's going to be into. And Nasher was kind of that same, a young, precocious kind of kid that gets into a little bit of trouble and has fun.
Yeah, Calvin had his pet tiger that came to life, and Dennis has his dog Nasher, and they go on adventures, and the modern internet presence version of the Beano kind of takes out all the uncomfortable parts where Dennis is just like inventing new fucking PhD level sciences of homophobic bullying against the softies, who are all presumably also the same age, like no older than 10. So it seems kind of weird that the artists and editorial staff of this magazine are like, these kids are gay. You know what I mean? Like, but it was the 80s, so that it was, I suppose it was all.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that we know that they're super gay, very gay.
You haven't seen the 80s Beanos. We've talked about it before, but like the way the softies are drawn, beyond being called the softies, is they're all boys who like to have tea parties and like sniff flowers, and like they're like, if they ever get forced to play sports, like all of their team jerseys have flowers on them and stuff. Like it's basically like these boys are feminine, and thus you are right in bullying them as hard as possible. Like that was kind of the message of the Beano at the time. That shit, and also some of the stuff that really hasn't aged well in terms of there was a character who was like a British child who was like a kung fu master named Karate Sid, and let's just say its portrayals of East Asian culture in general, it was quite confused about which country it was trying to represent. I'm not aged well in the fucking slightest.
Yeah, nothing from the 80s talking about an Asian culture has aged well at all.
No, nothing from the fucking 2000s has, quite frankly.
Right.
That's cool though, man, because I mean, yeah, it definitely they've done a lot to kind of like make an internet presence for the Beano, whereas the kind of like mainstay cartoons from when we were younger are either like mega commercialized to the point where like they don't have, there's nothing about them that isn't like drawn by like a staff or a computer at this point. Things like Garfield, for example, and Dennis the Menace. Hal Ketchum's been dead for a while, I think. Obviously Bill Watterson retired. He went out on top. He was just like, done, said my piece. I did this for 10 years. It's only downhill from here. And he left, and he's never come back, aside from like a guest thing to like help raise money for another cartoonist who had cancer. He did like a guest panel of one. That literally was it.
Did you ever read Get Fuzzy?
No.
That's a that was probably the last really great comic strip, like syndicated comic strip that I think was kind of that and Foxtrot. And I think Foxtrot is still kind of out there as a Sunday comic.
I remember
but
Foxtrot,
Get Fuzzy was a guy named Rob who had a Siamese cat called Bucky and a dog named Satchel. And the dog and cat are, they speak. He talks to them. In this world, all the animals are basically sentient. But it's like, and he kind of just stopped doing it. Like he was putting out a lot of comics, but I don't know how syndication works. And eventually a lot of newspapers are just like, well, he's not sending us anything new, so I guess we're just going to drop it. But, kind of that same, like Bill Watterson, rather than like let it run into the ground and become some weird zombified, some resurrected nonsense that it was. Because, you mentioned Garfield, and like Garfield comics, even when Jim Davis was alive, weren't exactly like the most fall down riotous laugh. However, he did slip in a John Arbuckle drinking dog semen joke. So,
well, we don't actually know. We don't actually know because he drank something, and then the doctor, the veterinarian he was trying to hit on, was like, "Congratulations, you're going to have a healthy litter of puppies." Now, presumably, it was some kind of medicine because the vet doesn't typically have like jars of dog cum.
Coffee mug full of dog semen.
What was it that he got given that caused him to immaculately conceive a litter of puppies? That's what I want to know. There's some dark arts going on in Muncie, Indiana, where Garfield is said.
Man, this is really set in Muncie.
Set in Muncie.
God, that makes so much fucking sense now.
Yeah. That's where John Arbuckle was
maybe
from,
she's
man.
like a pet. Yeah, she's like a pet psychic or something. Like rather than doing fertility, I want my dog to have a litter of puppies. So I've got to go and get the mugwort from my witch doctor veterinarian.
Years ago, I know I must have told you this story before. My friend sent me this video that there were this kind of like early days YouTube or like pre-YouTube kind of like College Humor style internet videos where they would do live action costume recreations of the really bad old Garfields, like when they looked ugly as fuck from like the 70s.
Yeah.
And there's one where it's like in the cartoon, it's like it's 4 panels, who knows? It's a daily newspaper one. Garfield's got like a spare bone from something and he looks at Odie. He's like, gonna put that dog's lights out. And he's about to hit Odie. Then John looks at him. And then Garfield sees him and then just starts using the bone and like scratching his back as if he was just doing that all along. And John just looks at the viewer, mugs the camera like, this is this fucking cat again. It's really dumb. It's not funny at all. So they recreate this in live action with like actors dressed as Garfield and Odie and John. And then it fucking turns into Final Fantasy VI. And they've done pixel art and the music, and like it goes to this battle where they have to fight. Like I can't remember who they're fighting. Like fighting Lasagna, and like Lasagna's attack against Garfield is Mondays, and it hits him with a bunch of calendar days. And then like genuinely, it's so insane. And then like once they win the battle, then it's like Jim Davis has joined your party. You get like pixel art Jim Davis, and like you get 18 licensing deals. You get like 10,000 unfunny comics, $100 million. and this is crucial to the joke. The game then goes into the like menu screen where you can check your party's status, and it clicks into the character of Jim Davis, and under skills, it's like grayed out. And you can't click on it because he doesn't have any. It's so fucking good, dude. It's so labyrinthine and so good. Like I knew they did these videos with like recreating Garfield and they would take him in weird turns, but like the level of detail that went into this, man, it was like I appreciate this because I know Final Fantasy VI really well. I loved that game when I was like 10, 11. And I'm from Indiana, and I fucking hate Garfield. And I know Jim Davis, who's also from Indiana, who's like, another one of the bad Indiana exports that everyone thinks is good, or people have absorbed into culture and they're just bad, like John Mellencamp, who did have some good songs, but mostly sucks. Or it's like someone actually taking the time to skewer Jim Davis made me so happy because he was so bad.
Right, and he was never like accused of anything.
No. It was funny.
He's just an unfunny guy who wrote about a cat.
Unfunny cartoon and licensed it to the end of the earth. So just like,
he did.
And then tried to recreate his fucking model with having like an entire sweatshop of people drawing cartoons for him for a one called US Acres, and everyone hated it. Even though it was basically the same dumb jokes as Garfield. He was like, no, we want the cat. We want the cat that hates Mondays.
Yeah. You couldn't make a comic like Garfield anymore. However, Garfield minus Garfield, that's still going strong, I'm pretty sure. Where the guy just photoshops Garfield out of random comic strips.
I mean, I do enjoy a mean-spirited parody where people really do know like the lore and the arcana of the comic strip and they can like they draw it in the style but make fun of it. Like when it's done well, it's extremely good. It's even better when cartoonists do it to each other. Bill Watterson and help me out, dude. The guy who drew Outland and Bloom County.
Berkeley Breath.
Yeah, Burke Breath. He and Bill Watterson used to do this back and forth and make fun of each other. And there was Bill Watterson drew a sketch of him cramming money into a speedboat because I guess he liked speedboating and like screaming at his cartoon characters and be like, "Who the fuck do you think you are, the Simpsons? I want all your faces on goddamn backpacks and Trapper Keepers by tomorrow." So So I love that shit. It was Pearls Before Swine was the guest art that Bill Watterson
Pearls
did.
Before Swine also great. Yeah. Another one of the last great syndicated cartoons. I always liked when on April Fool's Day, a lot of the comic artists would swap back and forth. They'd say, I'm going to draw your comic, you draw mine. And then like April 1st, you'd see a lot of comic strips in different styles. And the idea was to go through and see who did what styles. And I know Bill Watterson did some, Gary Larson did some. These are back like the heights of the comic strips in the newspaper, the 80s and 90s, Well,
no, yeah, they actually made syndicated cartoonists made really good money if they were successful. But I mean, obviously, in the case of Gary Larson, he quit around the same time or not long after Bill Watterson did. Burke Breathitt has come back, I think, a few times. I mean, Bloom County was funny because it's like Doonesbury. Like, it's been around for forever. Like, if you go back, because I remember...
I have so many Doonesbury and so many, not Outland, but Bloom County. I have so many Bloom County books.
Bloom County...
That's where I learned... That's why I know who McGovern is because I was reading shit like that back in when I was growing up. Like, that's how I learned about politics in the 70s was Doonesbury and Opus.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Outland and then didn't realize that Bloom County was like the precursor to it, and that it had been going.
Do you know they made a Christmas special too?
Really? Did they make?
Yeah, Opus and Bill, A Wish for Wings That Works.
There was I remember there was one where Outland kind of predicted the level of like shitness of technology in a lot of ways too. I mean, it was like there are elements of it that haven't aged well, and I have a feeling that Burke Breathitt probably wouldn't defend it, but there actually were like he did kind of push the boundaries a little bit. Like I mean I was a kid, but I remember they were really funny, and they were funny in that way that stuff that you can read as an 8-year-old and laugh at it, and then your parents can laugh at it too because there's stuff in it for them. I mean, similarly with Calvin and Hobbes. Like, I mean, in general, it's kind of nuts that was even there in the first place, because even by the mid 90s, like when Calvin and Hobbes ended, man, all the other comics were dog shit, and like they were all like really right wing too. Like, you probably noticed that like all of them are right wing. It's insane. They're all like, they're all like,
politics doesn't bleed in all the time, but Garfield would just be like, I hate Mondays.
And I hate the libs too. I mean, there was actually, what was it?
I hate Mondays, but you need to get to work if you want health insurance.
Fucking Mallard Fillmore was another one that was insanely right wing.
God, that was an actual insane.
There were a bunch
right-wing.
of others like it, but Mallard Fillmore was.
It was just Mallard Fillmore was also the laziest one too, because it was just like a guy grinding an axe. So like there was never any action. It was just Mallard Fillmore, 1 or 2 drawings of him giving you that like Jim Halpert look, like and then just being like, isn't Ronald Reagan right? Just ugh.
I mean, there was a great one parody that was going around the internet like in the 2000s where they hadn't really done it in the style of Mallard Fillmore, but it was called Anthropomorphic Republican Talking Duck, and it's like panel 1, he's just happily reading newspaper, liberals. Next one, getting madder, liberals. By the end, he's just screaming at the top of his lungs, liberals, and it's just like, yes, that is 100% what it was. They made fun of it in the Daily Show book, and the guy who drew it because they made fun of him for like famously getting tons of DUIs, and so he did like a really angry one about Jon Stewart being like, oh, I'm Jon Stewart and I fuck underage boys, and it's just sort of like, well, no, he doesn't, and no one would accuse him of that because there's no backstory there, but you have gotten like 6 DUIs, so it's like, and now you're mad. You drew it in a cartoon and certified that you're mad.
Sir, you basically took off all of your clothes, got very red and nude and mad online for all of us to see before like people were actually getting red and nude online.
Draw yourself as red and nude so everyone knew how red and nude you were.
This is how syndicated comic strip artists did diss tracks back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, man. Going back and looking at Calvin and Hobbes, there's some stuff in there that I'm like, not that it's like subversive, but more that it's intelligent and very funny, and there's parts of me is like, wow, this used to be like pretty de rigueur in like American stuff, like not everything, but this is very funny and very clever, and it made money. It was the most popular comic strip from the the late 80s until the series ended, and like it wasn't even close. And yeah, I mean, enough that he was able to take like sabbaticals, like for like a year plus. And yeah, I mean, it's weird. We have that. It's strange because, I grew up all over, and for a decent chunk of time when I was, in grade school, I didn't live in America, but I read, they had it in Stars and Stripes, and I read that comic strip every day if we got the news. If my dad brought the newspaper home from work, the first thing I would do is read Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, my parents still get the newspaper, and every time we go over to visit them, they have a stack of like the comics for my daughter to go through, and she goes through them real fast now, man. There's just not that many, and they're not that good. Like if you ever look at like the comics page from like a newspaper from like the 1930s, and it's all just like crammed full of
they're full color. Like they're insanely well illustrated. They're massive.
It's all 8-point fonts, like writing, like it's all and everything is like these like really contained stories, and they're huge. Like there's so many of them.
Unreal, yeah. I mean, because that was the thing that drove newspaper sales. Now
it's just like half the page is Dagwood's fucking sandwich. It's
like an isekai fucking Dagwood sandwich. Oh god. Monster movie, huge mecha anime about Dagwood Bumstead, his gigantic fucking sandwich.
Yeah, that's what he gets into. You have to fight
the
giant...
scene in Akira where he just starts growing and having the tumors expanding, but his Dagwood's infinity sandwich, he brought it back from the dimension that you should not enter.
Yeah, instead of yelling, Tatsuda, it's Jimmy John's!
I forgot all about that shit. Well, then there was also like Married with Children, was like, that was long stories. I mean, that wasn't bad. Well, it wasn't Married with Children. What was it fucking called?
No, there's Mark Trail. There was Dick Tracy used to have a comic too. There were some serious ones. There was
the one about like, what is it fucking called? Everyone who's old enough to remember this knows, and they're like, Nate, you're an idiot. But in my defense, I was a small child. It was one where like, it was like a married couple and they had a kid, and like it basically followed like that family story.
Oh, High and Lois.
No, it's not High and Lois. It's another one. I want to say like fucking Married with Children. It's not,
For Better or Worse.
Thank you. There you are. Yeah, Married with Children was Al Bundy on Fox. Yeah, yes. With Peggy, and he worked in a shoe store and all that stuff.
Yeah.
For Better or Worse. Right. That one is interesting because like it actually, I'm pretty sure they started it like the kid is born.
It progresses, the kids get old.
Like I remember reading it when I was a grade schooler, and like the kids were like late high school at that point. But if you went back, like, you know, they had them when they were like 3 and stuff like that. So it was like, part of me wonders, is this another case of like your entire childhood documented by your parents and sold for profit? All of your weird stories that you didn't want people to know about, they know about.
I will say I read a lot of For Better or Worse, and there is some, like, it's one of those that we don't let our daughter read, not because it's offensive, but because Ellie, the mom, is constantly worried about her weight and is constantly talking about her weight, and there's always all this stuff. And that's a thing that like a lot of these older comics that like we kind of get this like, I don't want to, you know, we kind of filter them out of the collection because I don't want her, you know, of course I read a lot of it. It didn't affect me, but it's just like, that's not a way that we want our daughter to be thinking about.
1,000,000%. And yes, also I recall because their daughter then is also always kind of fixated on her weight as a teenager, and there's a lot of storyline stuff about that too. And
they did do, you know, the very special episodes. They did do, you know, strips about having eating disorders. You know, a friend of the family dies. Oh, the close family friend turns out to be gay.
Yeah, he gets thrown out by his parents, and they take like his Michael's friend, and they take him in. Yeah, like it's I remember that. Yeah, like it wasn't bad, but it's just, I think it's of its time, and there were some things now that like in retrospect you look at and you're like, let
me tell you, the other books that like I never know whether or not to get them out because I still think they're funny are like the Dilbert books from the mid-90s. Because Scott Adams, don't get me wrong, is a crazy person. Insane. He is a crazy person. But like he definitely knew what he was talking about in the 90s when he was making these cartoons, these panels. And like I still find, as somebody who works in a corporate job, I still find them funny, and there's nothing in them that I'm just like, I don't want you to have access, I don't want you, you know, like For Better or Worse, I don't want you having a complex about weight. But like it's the same kind of thing with like J.K. Rowling, right, where you're just like, look, there's nothing wrong with this content. I just hate the person that made it, and I don't want you to be like, oh my God, Scott Adams, I should read more about this guy and figure out. No, don't. I don't want you doing anything with Dilbert. Just get it out of your head. Don't worry about it. So those are all kind of rotated out too, because like I said, there's nothing wrong with the content of them. It's just Scott Adams is fucking weird and disgusting, and I just don't want her to be anywhere near that guy's work.
No, it's bad. I mean, at least John McAfee took it all the way. It was like, I'll fuck a whale, and then died from like infinity drug overdose. Scott Adams is just like Republican chud.
Now he's dying of cancer though, so and trying to get cancer. He's trying to ask Donald Trump for cancer drugs.
All I can say about Scott Adams is I remember reading, my parents got the Dilbert principle of the book, I think like his written book, not the comics. And there were definitely some jokes in there that were like, yeah, that doesn't really something about like, not wanting to know what your employees do after hours, because it would be pretty unpleasant to have to be HR and read forms saying I'm going to rent a VHS or a video projector and masturbate like a wild monkey or something like that, which I thought was very funny at 12, but also sort of like, that doesn't really square with Dilbert's the weird,
That's a weird principle for Dilbert to have
exactly.
here,
Maybe his dick
Dilbert's
does
never
curve
talked
upward
about
like
masturbating. Yeah.
All I can say is, it is weird to me how Scott Adams was one of the last ones, I think, to have a cartoon that then became famous enough that you could make a lot of money from licensing. And now it's like not enough people read newspapers, and syndicated cartoons, I don't think, make money. Like, it's hard. There are people who do comics, but the industry that was driving at the time was you do a strip, it gets picked up, you sell merch and all that kind of stuff, and that's a career track. I guess Dilbert was it Scott Adams with Dilbert, and then Aaron Magruder with the Boondocks. It's one of the last because that was like newish in like the late 90s, and it was kind of the tail end of that era. And yeah, God knows, man. It's
everything changed after 9/11.
Everything changed after 9/11. Yeah, somehow 9/11 made us not read bad comic strips.
Finally, Garfield hated two things: Mondays and
Osama bin Laden.
Terrorism.
Yeah, exactly.
Osama bin Laden. Freedom fries. Yeah.
They actually. The little known fact is the helicopter they crashed in Abbottabad was called Nirmal. Garfield finally got his revenge on both Nirmal and Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, they never got to Abu Dhabi, but we did get to Abbottabad. Nate, thank you for joining me. Everybody, thank you for listening. I hope that you're having a good Thanksgiving, however you celebrate it, whether you're here or in, here in America, there in Geneva, or anywhere in between. Lots of bonus stuff coming out in December. As we talked about the Hallmark movies, my wife and I will be doing some things. So.
I got a bonus surprise coming for y'all too, so just keep your eyes peeled.
Nate's got a bonus, and I think me and Jack are gonna do another Christmas music episode if we can manage to get our timelines to all line up correctly. So we got a lot of good stuff coming to you in December, and then of course into the new year we'll be back in the saddle again. So everybody, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Have a good one.